You have power yet? No, I got no power.
So good morning, everyone, to our Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee, April 6th, beautiful day outside, and I want to thank the people on the audience. I know most of us have power and no power, but it's really brutal outside, but hopefully everybody's safe, and I'm sure there is a update will be coming from the city later on, but I want to appreciate the people on my colleague that they're on Zoom and they're here. I know some of them. Actually, the three of us have no power in our houses and internet, so we're here perfectly safely, and thanks for that. So our meeting this morning, it's gonna be very short and sweet, but as a chair statement, we have for a public hearing or for OP and zoning items. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendments listed as items 4.2 and 4.3 on today's agenda for the item just mentioned. Only those who made oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendment are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal if council does not adopt an amendment within 90 days of receipt of the application for a zoning bylaw amendment and 120 days for an official plan amendment. To submit written comments on these amendments prior to their consideration by City Council on April 12, 2023, please email or call the committee or council coordinator. Before we move to item number 2, I'll ask the coordinator to have a roll call, please.
Councillor Brown. Oh, Councillor Brown has sent regrets.
Regrets, yes.
Councillor Kitts.
Here.
Councillor Lulo.
I'm here physically, yes.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Present.
And Chair Drews.
Here.
Have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. Any declaration of interest? Seeing none, we move to number 3. Can I have a confirmation of minutes from ARAC minutes February 24, 2023?
Confirmed.
Carried, thank you. Number 4 on the agenda, our Planning, Real Estate and Economy Development Department. It is 4.1 on the agenda. It's a right-of-way patio bylaw update and new urban design guideline for commercial patios. I asked staff if we need this presentation, but my colleague, we already went through this transportation and the planning. So we have our staff, Mark Young and Laureen Denardo, if anyone have a question for them, because we're not gonna go through the presentation, sorry for, but I'm sure you're okay with that if anyone has a question for you.
It's nice to see you.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much for attending this morning. That the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council, 1, approve the urban design guidelines for commercial patio in document 2. Is that carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 4.2, we have a front-ending agreement report at Manatic Water Main Link Phase 2. We have no presentation, we have no delegation and no correspondence. I spoke also to Councilor Brown, and he's also aware of the report and he's in agreement with the report. So anyone have a question? So report recommendation, the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve the following. Number 1, authorize the city and delegate authority to the General Manager, Planning, Real Estate and Economy Development Department to enter into front-ending agreement with Minto Community, Inc. in relation to the design and construction of the Manatic Water Main Link Phase 2 project as outlined in the report, in accordance with the front-end agreement principles and policies set forth in documents 1 and 2, and with the final form and content being to the satisfaction of the city solicitor. 2, pursuant to said agreement, authorize the recipient from Minto Communities, Inc. to an upset limit of $12,800,212 plus applicable taxes in accordance with the agreement to fund the above described work, which are to be completed by the city. 3, pursuant to to said agreement. Upon receipt, the above described fund authorize the city to tender drawing and specification for the said work and provide contract administration and site inspection for their construction, and pursuant to said agreement, authorize financial disbursement to reimburse Minto Community Inc. by way of development charges credits to an upset limit of $12,800,212 plus applicable taxes through the Manotick area specific development charges and in accordance with said agreement. All in favor? Okay.
Carried.
Carried, thank you. That item is carried also. So thank you very much. 4.3, we have a clerk, and that's not your clerk. No, we have a clerk municipal drain. And we have our staff, Dave Ryan here. If we have any question or concern, thanks for coming here this morning, Dave. We have no presentation, no delegation, and no correspondence. The report is that the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee recommend that council give these 3 readings to the bylaw attached as a document to this report to provide for the abandon of the Clark Municipal Drain, East Main Drain for STA 0+00 to STA 14+31 and West Main Drain from 0+00 STA +8+58 located in lot 12 and 13, concession 3, former township of Nepean, Barrhaven, West Ward, under subsection 84.5 of the Drainage Act. Do you have any question?
Not sure.
Is that report carried?
That's right.
Carried, thank you very much. And we have no in-camera item. And we do have an open mic session this morning. Mr. Ken Holmes and Megan Gordon, thank you both for attending, and please, you can come to the front, and the committee is here to listen to your presentation. And we'll give you 10 minutes each if you want. You just, it's a tough day to drive around, and you made it here, so we gotta accommodate you, and it's always nice to see both of you here at ERAC. And I know Mr. Holmes is a regular in our committee, so we're happy to have him, and you, Megan, too. Wanna turn your mic on, please? Sorry about that. Yeah,
There we go.
go ahead.
I'd like to congratulate the staff on the work that's been done in this room for the quality of the acoustics. It's normally very terrible, and it's, I'm impressed with the improvements. So congratulations to the staff on that. Mr. Chair, today I'm speaking to you as the rural representative on the city's ambassadors working group. Earlier this week, I sent you a copy of the terms of reference of that group. There are not a lot of opportunities for the rural voice to be heard, but the ambassadors working group is one that can be used specifically during the official planning process. You may want to discuss that aspect later on during your questions. Next slide, please. About a year ago, the first draft of the Transportation Master Plan shared the same weakness that is evident in the new official plan. In that official plan, despite the ambitious mobility big move that hopes to have more than half of the city's transportation to be by sustainable means, that plan failed to recognize that the rural area needed to be included within that goal. The background on that iteration is also in the background email that I sent you earlier this week. The official plan seemed to be satisfied with the recognition that personal vehicles are recognized as the main form of transportation in the rural area. And that may be the status quo, but it provided little vision on how to satisfy the real transportation needs in the rural area. The matter of rural needs was punted by the official plan to the Transportation Master Plan, then proceeded to repeat the same status quo approach in its first draft. The second draft that you'll be voting on, I believe on the 17th of April at Transportation Committee, is a slight improvement, but it still fails to acknowledge the broader problem, nor does it give adequate policy direction in the area. Next slide, please. What are the rural transportation needs and how are they different from urban Ottawa? As I'm sure you're aware, the city has a comprehensive set of equity and inclusion lenses, of which the rural lens is one. That document is a good starting point for both rural residents and non-rural residents to understand the uniqueness of rural Ottawa. The document gives a good dealing with the unique situation and the challenges of the rural residents. It recognizes the reality and the challenges of a low population density and our dispersed population. It also recognizes that amalgamation centralized much of the services into urban Ottawa. It recognizes that much of the rural daily life involves traveling great distances, and it recognizes that the life in rural Ottawa and its residents are changing. The rural lens summarizes its guidance to everybody in the bold blue text at the bottom of the slide. Rural residents envision more alternative and affordable transportation options. The Transportation Master Plan simply does not reflect that vision. Next slide, please. This slide reminds of how the entirety of rural residents would benefit from better transportation. Every age group, from youth through young adult, through adults and seniors, would benefit from improved transportation options. When dealing with the need for rural transportation, the current set of TMP policies is far too limiting. It only mentions the need for better rural transportation options to support rural economic development. What happened to the rest of the population in the rural area? Next slide, please. I believe there is an incorrect common belief that many of the rural residents do not support the need for improved transportation in the rural area. The survey work being done by the Rural Transportation Solutions for Ottawa Group is revealing the contrary. Our current survey is helping to provide some definition to the transportation needs in rural Ottawa. That survey has been ongoing for about 2.5 weeks now, and it is showing that almost 60% of residents strongly agree that rural Ottawa would benefit from improved transportation. And another 15% indicate that they agree. So we have almost 75% of participants in that survey indicating that they need more rural transportation options. And they're not naive. They have an awareness of the associated realistic costs. Rural Transportation Solutions is looking forward to presenting the results of their current survey to you in June. Next slide, please. Returning to the new official plan, wherein may lie some of the basic problems in the TMP, it's important that we do not follow the same path that the official plan did. That plan was very much a status quo approach with respect to the rural transportation options. While it seemed to recognize the need in some instances, any direction towards resolution focused on the rural area simply was not there. We have to get the Transportation Master Plan right at this draft stage. Next slide, please. I believe that rural councillors have to act now to ensure that the next iteration of the Transportation Master Plan properly reflects the need for more transportation options for rural Ottawa. In simplest terms, the TMP needs to set a direction in its policies that seeks alternate transportation options in rural Ottawa for all the needs, not just for economic development. The policy shouldn't appear as an afterthought, as it seems to now. And the document should elaborate on those needs in the same way that it does, for example, for the active transportation topic. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentations. If you have any questions, I'd be prepared to answer them along with my colleague Megan.
Thank you very much, both of you, for attending this morning. And I'll leave my question till the end, but I'm going to ask my colleague if they have a question. I also want to assure you that most of the councillors that or ERAC also are at Transportation Committee. So we are well represented at this committee also. So thank you very much for that. I guess Clark has questions. Go ahead.
You're just backing up Ken today. Right on. Good team. Thank you both for coming. I've chatted with both of you at length about some of these issues and the various aspects that come up in regards to rural transportation. So thank you again to both of you for the work that you do. And Mr. Holmes, I know that we've spoke about the public consultation aspect of these plans on several occasions. Can you explain to the committee your thoughts on the public consultation aspect of putting together these plans, and what voice do rural residents have in the absence of rural summits and the rural office? I think is a shadow of its original self when it was originally established. So I just wanted to get your comments on that and perhaps how it could be improved in the future.
My experience, there is a huge gap between the documentation that's produced by staff like the Transportation Master Plan and the individual resident. The plans, like the official plan, are something like 150, 200-page document. Your average resident is not going to be able to wallow through that sort of a document unless somebody points them in the right direction, points them to areas that we think their attention might be best directed. That step is missing almost in its entirety. As a member of the Ambassadors Working Group, I get reasonably advanced notification of major documents like the Transportation Master Plan. But even then, I had to seek out the information that it was in fact available as the second draft. I received that information about a month ago with an indication that it would be going to Transportation Committee before the end of April. In that interim, I've seen very little discussion on the Transportation Master Plan amongst the rural councillors. I've seen nothing in the monthly newsletter. So there's nothing to bridge that gap to try to engage the residents. That's not a new problem. That problem was recognized years ago and was one of the reasons that the mayor and council started the rural summits. We had Rural Summit 1 in 2005, Rural Summit 2 in 2008, and with a commitment by council to have a rural summit conducted once for every term of council. That was 3 terms of council ago. So the rural summit that was intended to be a major focal point to get the rural audience together to discuss common points of concern and to develop some recommendations, that mechanism does not exist. And the rural voice was supposed to be very much based on the rural summits. So that mechanism is gone. We used to have an organization, a group called the Rural Affairs Advisory Committee, which was an arm that was available to ARAC to help study and investigate and develop areas. I've seen a couple of their reports. They're very good. Unfortunately, we've lost the advisory committee. The mayor decided to basically dispense with all advisory committees except those that were mandated by the province of Ontario. So that second mechanism that provided ARAC and rural councillors a professional opportunity to discuss major areas, that's gone. So then we rely upon the rural office. Now, the rural office, which was given a great mandate and an allocation of, I think, up to about 8 FTEs, with a mandate that work with the rural summits, work with the advisory committee. So the three of them were to work together. Well, the rural office today is a mere shadow of what was intended back in 2008. So the three mechanisms that were intended to exist to fill that void between these great plans and the rural resident, they're all gone. So I know I'm not allowed to ask questions, but my question is basically to the rural councillors. What can you do to recreate some sort of mechanisms to fill that void between the large plans and the small resident to ensure that the rural voice is heard and the proper input is provided in a timely manner in order to get amendments, changes, and improvements to the master plans? So that was one of my typical short answers. I have a longer answer if you'd like.
Hate to see the longer answer. No, I'm just joking. I appreciate it. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because when my first motion at council was to direct the rural office to come back with options for a rural summit this term of council. And when we were doing our farm tour, I was sitting beside one of the three staff at the rural office, and they were explaining to me that they are short-staffed and don't have the number of resources that they need to get those options back to council within the time period that was asked of in the motion. So I just found that interesting that they don't have the resources to bring back the summit, which gave the resources originally and directed staff to, look at some of these issues more deeply in a meaningful way. And thank you for your question. I'd love to think more deeply about how we can do that. Do you have any suggestions for us as councillors, that you've experienced over your work on this ambassadors group, and how we could fill that void?
Well, certainly the starting point is that the rural office has to be enacted, empowered, as was originally intended. I appreciate there was a very significant change in philosophy. Originally, when the rural office was formed, it was created as almost a physical office. So you had that staff of 5 to 8 people working together. When the former city manager did a reorganization of staff, he decided to use a different approach. So instead of having, let's say, the environmental representation sitting in the rural office, it was sitting in the environmental office with a focus on rural affairs. So either approach to management could work, but that has to be manned, and they have to have a mandate. And I think if there's a fundamental starting point, it has to be something like the equity inclusion lenses. And that was a great initiative by the city to ensure that they had the ability, the mechanism to look at all of the complex documents that were being produced, but through the eyes of the different minority groups. I like what it says in the current rural lens. It could do with a little bit of tweaking and updating, like most of them, but it covers all of the major points. So somehow we've got to find a way to ensure that the rural lens is being applied to all of these master documents. Now that has to be the rural office. And that has to be one of their priorities. In most of the other areas or many of the other areas where we have an equity and inclusion lens, there is a specific staff identified. So we have the gender lens that's used. You've got the new Canadian lens that's being used, but the documents go to a particular office and look for specific comments through that lens. I don't see the evidence that practice is being used with the rural lens and the rural office. So in terms of a first step, that has to be one. So not only do we need somebody with the right vision and viewpoint to look at it, but we also need to have somebody looking at it with the rural lens at a very early and appropriate time. The average citizen will not learn about the current draft of the Transportation Master Plan probably until the Friday, the day before the Transportation Committee meeting. So they will have the better part of 3 or 4 days. Now, we've got to be realistic. Do we expect to engage the average resident from a cold start with a 140-page document that staff has been working on for a year and provide meaningful input, either to the councillors, ARAC, or to engage Ottawa and the TMP team? So it's a bit of a nonsense the way we say that we're engaging residents now, because it's not very realistic. It has expectations that are entirely unrealistic.
I can't say I disagree with you, Mr. Holmes, on that, and it's something that I would like to improve over the next few years. And then finally, I guess my last question would just maybe give us a sense of some of the rural transportation solutions that you're discussing and coming up with. Just maybe briefly give us a highlight of some of those solutions,
Yeah, I
and that'll be
don't
my
know
last
if-
question.
I don't know if I have a slide there. The Rural Transportation Solutions Group has been working for the better part of 2 years, trying to gather information from councillors and residents and other interested groups as to what they see as their need for transportation. I've been working well with the Transportation Master Plan, the Origin Destination Study, and what other group? An OC Transpo, gathering information on where we are and where we think we may be going. One of the more interesting documents was a presentation by OC Transpo to council back in September 2002. So it was shortly after amalgamation, where OC Transpo then presented to council an outline of what they thought needed to be done in the rural area to improve transportation. Of that list, about 2/3 were implemented, but there's still a third that weren't implemented. So we're going to be working with groups, villages, community associations, and councillors to go back to that document, look at those 1/3 that were not implemented, and see how they could be added to the current OC Transpo system to improve transportation. But things have changed. Not only the population and the distribution, but we've been putting a fair amount of effort in the last decade towards ideas of rural economic development. The plans that were developed back in 2002 are quite dated, in that their focus was, how do we get the rural folks downtown to work? If our focus now in the rural areas is economic development, we've got to look at it through the other end of the telescope. And how do we get people from downtown out to the rural areas? You've probably had a couple of conversations with my colleague from the CARP Road Corridor Business Improvement Agency. He worked with the forerunner of the Rural Transportation Solutions Group when we studied CARP and their transportation needs. And amongst his highest priorities of what he needs in that area, it's transportation. He can't get people to come out to work because they can't get out to work.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. The direction in which we're heading with the Rural Transportation Solution is twofold. We're looking at improving that OC Transpo based system to get rush hour personnel in and out of the city. But at the same time, we're looking at the other half of the problem, which is, how do you get the other half of the population in the rural area to move around their rural area during the day? So the solution to that seems to be heading in the direction of a minibus, shuttle bus system with an on-demand backbone, working on a fixed schedule, but variable stops depending on the demand, and that will get people to their nearest village or from their village to their next destination throughout the day. So that's generally where we're heading with that project. The current survey will have an initial analysis done of that by early June. And certainly we're looking forward to another open mic presentation at that time to let you know what we found.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the, sorry, go ahead.
If I can just add to Ken's response there, the youth side of things. So we're also doing a survey right now for rural youth. All the rural city councillors have been very kind to send that out. Thank you. We've had over, I think, 520 responses from rural youth, which we're really happy with. That's really great. And transportation is the #2 issue. I looked at it yesterday. The survey doesn't close until the 11th of April, but so far it's #2. That is the biggest, second biggest barrier to youth accessing mental health services in the city of Ottawa. So it is, a glaring issue over and over. That youth don't have the ability to move from their rural villages into the city to access those services that they desperately need to attend to make sure that they're mentally well and not in crisis. So we are, I'm here mostly just to echo what Ken's saying, that the need exists. And it's a real challenge and a real problem that there are no solutions now. And we're happy to work with ARAC in the city of Ottawa and to come up with some solutions that work for rural youth.
Thank you, Megan. Councillor Lula.
Thank you very much for coming out today and providing this presentation. As somebody who's new on ARAC, I really do appreciate this very much. And I appreciate your comments when it comes to how we do consultations. As the chair of the Ottawa Public Library Board, we undertook one of the most comprehensive consultations in the city's history on our OCL branch. And I think that model is something that we can look at when it comes to ensuring that we're getting proper feedback from rural residents on this issue. We had like something over like 4 or 5 dozen events in different areas across the city, and it allowed residents to shape the vision prior to a report being produced. And so like all of that information was taken out. We had, children drawing pictures of what they thought, the library should look like, people listening to the services that they were looking for. And then we piloted those services in different branches. You can find a makerspace here where you can do 3D printing if you want to. We'll finish with the delegations today. Music production stations, that sort of thing. And we were able to pilot that while the report was being written so that we could have an idea of what was going to work and what didn't work. And I think that it's important that we don't lose those lessons when it comes to looking at like master plans like this. Loads of the same with the OP. Lots of workshops across the city to discuss that. My secondary plan in Orleans, same thing. I really look forward to that follow-up report. I'd like to see some of the specific examples and asks of how to get people around, because we want to ensure that we are respecting the character of rural villages and rural areas, while at the same time ensuring that it's a viable place for youth to stay, while being able to work, live and play in their neighborhood, as well as take advantage of the fact that we are an amalgamated city, for better or for worse, with loads of amenities in other areas. Being able to move about your own neighborhood, being able to work in the city, and being able to visit your closest village if you're living on the outskirts of a rural area are things that are really important, things that we need to look at. And I just really appreciate you coming out today. Thank you very much. We hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, Councillor Lulov. And we have Councillor Kitt have questions or comments. So go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I don't have much to add to what my colleagues already said, but just that I do agree with you. I think over time, there has been a diminishment in the rural voice on key files that come before the city, and meaningful engagement. But I do think that you've got counselors on this committee that are committed to strengthening that and bringing it back. So I just wanted to thank you for being here. It's delegations like this that, you know, spur our creative thought. But again, just wanted to say we do hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kit. I just want to echo some of the comment that has been floating around, and I want to thank both of you, first of all, to come to our ERAC, and that was important for us to leave an open mic. I know it's probably the open mic is taking us longer than the meeting, but those are important issues. It relate to our community, not only myself, every councillor sitting on that committee. We echo, we understand, we hear you. I have a couple small questions concerning the survey that you're putting out. Every village and every area in the city, I know we're one city of Ottawa, but every village pay a transit levy different. Have you ever looked at those components? Because in my unique ward, per se, our rural resident, they don't pay. We don't pay Lasin levy. It's different than Manotick. Manotick is different than Carp. Carp is different than Cumberland. So have you looked at in one lens what this is going to reflect and how this is going to reflect? And will you, because I looked at the survey and it doesn't show asking people if they really want to pay for it. And it's going to come back down to who's going to pay for that, right? And I'm being honest and frank with you, because I personally, I don't think my rural resident want to pay 10 or 11 or 12% extra on their tax to have a transit or to have that. So I'm not saying we won't, I'm just saying I hear it loud and clear at the doors when I talk to my community. And then I'm seeing more and more changes in our communities. Like if you look at the village of Greeley, you look at the village of Osgood or the village of Metcalfe, you can see the diversity. You can see people moving in, and then they do need a transit, and they do need some kind of transportation to get them downtown. And some people are very resistant against it. So I'm wondering, in your survey, have you looked at those elements?
Absolutely. The survey number 3 in particular, I believe it's question 12, gives the outline of 3 different business cases. One of them is, do you agree that all residents in the rural area should contribute to the rural transportation solution regardless of whether they're a user or not? And about a third of the residents basically say that the user should pay 100% of the transportation cost. Another third look at the current model, where OC Transpo operations and maintenance is basically split between the tax bill and the rider. One of the things that we learned from the earlier surveys is that the rural population has a reasonable understanding that it's going to cost a heck of a lot more in the rural area for transportation than it does downtown because of the distances and the dispersed population. But they also know, as a bit of a benchmark, that if they were to take transportation like the service offered by some of the Triple P connection routes, it would likely cost them between $10 and $15 for a ride. So they've got that as a benchmark. So one of the models that we've used is, what would you think of the option of paying of the rider paying 75% of the cost as opposed to the 50% of the cost? And surprisingly, of those 3 options, it's split almost evenly. But we will be developing that. OC Transpo has given us some good information on what a route would cost. So certainly in the early stages, we can look at the express bus package and give people some very firm options as to what it would cost for a ticket and what it would cost on the taxes. I think one of the aspects that we've got to look at is, and I mentioned that I think during the Survey 2 presentation, is that perhaps we've got to look at a different way to fund OC Transpo in the rural areas. And it's not just for OC Transpo, it's also for Paratranspo. We've got to look at a different model. The situations are different enough that you can't take a city rule and say it applies into the rural area. So I guess in summary, residents are aware of the additional costs. They are aware of the reality that some of it may have to go on a tax bill and some may be paid for by the rider. But I think if we give them some fairly detailed business plans, they can consider the options wisely and make their decision.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I hear you, and this is a little bit concern, but I know that there is a way to work around it, and we're very happy to have those conversations. And I was talking to Osgood Youth Association. I know some of my residents are part of that transportation study that you've been doing, and so we will be kind of offering an opportunity for them also to come to Osgood Ward Advisory Board to basically submit that. You mentioned at the beginning that I know that we don't have the Rural Advisory Board anymore, but I know every councillors of us here have those mechanisms in our community. We have through our communication. So we will be circulating, and we will be working with your group to making sure those surveys are out and we get the proper data. And then we'll also allow an opportunity for to come and to come to our own advisory board and discuss those at a depth and more when it comes to closing. When we have some solution, we'll be working closely. And there is two other things. I heard you loud and clear. I know Councillor Clark and Councillor Brown and I had those discussions concerning the Rural Summit. And yes, I never been on one. I've been elected in 2014, and I know we haven't had one of those. But I was talking to Councillor Kitt and Councillor Luloff, and this committee are willing, and we are working together collectively. I know we might have some challenges. We have official plan. We have so many workload on us right now, but I assure you we'll take this offline, and you'll hearing from us, and then so you'll be very happy and be able to be conduit to our rural residents, making sure we are really hearing them, and we don't wait the last 2-3 days to give them the consultation and get their answer from it. So we assure you that work it's in the work, and I know Councillor Clark is championing that, and I know that we will collectively all work together on that. So thank you very much. Those are all my question and my comment, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
If I could make a
Yes,
comment
please.
on one of your areas, it's our intention after we complete survey 3 and have a good start on the business models to then go out and do some good public consultation, hopefully with each of the 28 different rural villages, so we can present them some fairly concrete plans on a map to show where the routes are with the costing options, and ask them for some very specific feedback. So that's the next big step once we finish with the survey process.
And we're looking forward for it. So
Yep.
we'll be working with your group. We're making sure we do a proper and thorough public consultation and meaningful one. So we'll be working with you. So thank you very much this morning for coming, and Megan, we appreciate your input, and I know that you do lots of work behind the scene, and it's not only both of you. You have a group volunteer and many other communities working with you. So we thank them from behalf of ERAC. Please relay our message to them. So we appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present, and thank you very much for your discussion and questions. Thank you.
Okay. We have no in-camera items. We have any notice of motion that we know of? We have none. We have no inquiry, other business. And perfect. 10, can we have an adjournment, please? Adjourn. Thank you.